Now, Rick Collins is the founder and executive director of Veterans 360 Incorporated and the Carry the Challenge initiative. He is a British veteran of the early 80s and has spent the last close to 4 years of his life on the front lines of treating PTS and supporting PTS in the US. In early 2011, 2 of Rick's friends killed themselves. Both were young combat Marines, both had been civilians for less than a year, and both should still be with us. In 2015, his singular mission is to normalise, civilianise, and eliminate the stigma associated with PTS. It is Rick's firmly held belief that it's the stigma that's killing them and not the PTS. Rick hopes that his presentation here this morning on transition strategies from the US perspective will make PTS something we understand and embrace, not something to be ashamed of. So, Rick's presentation will also be followed by an extract from a powerful play called The Theatre of War, but I'll leave Rick to introduce that better for you.
G'day. Come on, I've been waiting 56 years for this. I want a better one. G'day. Thank you. Hopefully that's on camera. I'll keep that forever. Before I go into my spiel, if you will, I wanted to kind of give you some feedback on what I've seen the last couple of days. And having chatted with my pea in the pod, Tony, who I think swears just slightly more than me. You guys are doing a damn good job. You are ahead of the curve. To have a chief stand up in front of a large group like that and mention military, police, first responders in the same sentence is a major achievement. We don't have that over there. Over there, PTS is owned by the military. That crazy veteran who jumps the fence at the White House. Everybody else is just having their own little struggles. And that's what I do. I'm trying and doing everything in my power to make this a civilian issue so that young vet who's 2 seats down from you, is 2 days away from killing himself, can put his hand up and get a hug. Just like a woman with breast cancer does, just like a fireman does, just like an ER nurse does, or a victim of domestic violence. So I think if you keep going down that road and you keep making it a civilian issue, you're going to nail this. You also have the luxury of having a lot smaller audience. And I nearly fell over when I was told you had 300 or so veteran-centric nonprofits. We have 45,000. And we are drowning our veterans in a sea of goodwill. So if I was to belly up to Stuart, I'd say, you know what, get these guys under your umbrella, vet them, learn about them, share best practices between them all, get a peer support network out there of people who understand PTS, who have been there, seen it, and done it, and hook these young men and women out there who are just going it alone, and don't let them go once you hook them. The key thing is, don't hook them with the words PTS. Don't hook them with the words mental health. Hook them with camaraderie, with peer support, with struggles. Are you struggling? Once you hook them, you can work out which ones are struggling with PTS or struggling with alcohol or drug abuse or anger, whatever the case may be. Be gentle until you hook them. And anyway, so that was, that's kind of my feedback on that. Now, I know that there's some kind of technology up here that means that I can change this thing. I want to just kind of give you a little bit about me before I go into my little thing. Okay. That is my son. And my son is doing what I did pretty much my whole life until about 4 years ago. I used to piss on everything because I knew everything. And how many of you know young veterans who are very much like my son? 4 years ago, as we said, 2 friends of mine, within a 90-day period, killed themselves. and my whole life changed. Because there, but for the grace of God, could have been me. Or there, but for the grace of God, could have been 100 other veterans that I knew from both my own service and from the US. They didn't have to die. They didn't have an incurable disease. They weren't shot in Iraq or Afghanistan. They'd both survived multiple combat tours. They come back to civilian life, the big next step in their lives, and they're gone. And I got pissed. Oh, is that the right way? Pissed okay in Australia? Yeah, okay. Angry. And I started looking into this, and it was very clear to me that our young 0311, 11B infantry types are our most underserved, underappreciated, and a key word, vulnerable demographic of veterans. Many were at war, people. 2 wars, 2003. You got a heartbeat, we want you. That's okay, you know, you barely got through high school. That's all right, don't worry about it. You come in, pilot, avionics, communications, Navy, submarines, you grunt. Well, here we are now, we don't have any wars. Nothing stimulates the economy like a good war. So what do? We have to get rid of these young men and women. And we are very creative over there of getting rid of these young men and women who maybe come from a rural background, maybe come from a broken home, maybe struggle with PTSD from their own home life. They've maybe got 4 to 6 years in the military, multiple combat tours, and all they've been taught is how to shoot straight and blow shit up. And now they're civilians. And bless our government, they don't do a damn thing to prepare them for being civilians for the first time. You get a 5-day TAPS course, and I've been there, and I've seen the trash can outside, good old government trash can. And it's full to the brim with all the paperwork that they were given that is supposed to educate them on how to survive civilian life. And my friend Dale Dye summed it up when I first started talking to him. He's a Vietnam vet, movie actor, cool dude. He said, we don't tell them that combat's easy. Why the F do we tell them that civilian life is? And that was a leading phrase that took me through this process. So 4 years ago, I changed from that to this. Well, I paint a picture that I would strongly encourage you to do the same. Paint a picture of the people that you're dealing with from their perspective, not from your perspective, not from your perspective of reading their docs, reading their medical forms, reading their, whatever it is over here, the DD-214, which says what their career was. But go back and paint the picture. So most of our infantrymen, because really we're all talking primarily about those who have served in combat or served in a direct combat role, they come from rural backgrounds. A lot of them very barely graduated high school. What were their reasons for joining the military in the first place? Probably pretty similar to a lot of reasons why a lot of people join the military here. Want to get away from family, can't get a job in that community. Their life sucks, they need friends, they need structure, they need excitement, travel the world, blah, blah, blah. Now paint the picture of when they get out. So now they're 24, 25, 28 years old. A lot of them haven't even owned a car, certainly haven't owned a house. They've been paid shit for the last 4, 5, 6 years. They don't get paid a lot of money. If they get kicked out, they lose their honorable status, which I've looked into over here, and it's not the case here, so bless you for that. But they lose their benefits. So now you have this young man who is taken away from their structure, taken away from their buddies, taken away from Gunny, who's the new version of mum. They went from mum and laundry and all this to Gunny, who tells them what to do, when to eat, when to do this. Now they're gone. Now they're out. And like when you come back from a combat deployment, yeah, go get pissed up for a few days, you know, go chase some women for a few days. That's okay, because come Monday, Gunny's going to be there and he's going to say, get your hair cut, get your backpack on, put in a few extra pounds in it, and get your ass up the hill. When they become civilians and they start that decompression process after a combat tour, there's nobody to stop it. And it's a rapid slope. And I tell a lot of people that when they get out, they have a big, huge bucket of positive, I'm going to conquer the world. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to look after myself, look after my family. And I've got some money in the bank and nobody's shooting at me, nobody's shouting at me. And it goes like this, and it goes like that very quickly. Now all of a sudden, shit, I haven't got a job. I haven't running out of money. And I went and bought a Ram 1500 Dodge Charger truck with $600 a month payment because some shyster told me that was a really good deal. Or I went and rented a 2-bedroom apartment when I probably should have got a studio. Or I went on the piss for a few days. Now all of a sudden, so where does that PTS come in? PTS is not over here. These young men and women don't get out and say, oh, I got PTS, I'm going to kill myself next week. So when this kicks in, then we start getting into these cure options. So I run my whole world around this basic principle. Engagement, employment, education, employment, and healing. One without the other does not work. If you heal, quote unquote heal, which in my world, not the clinical world, means you've helped them to the point where they can cope. If you don't heal and they've got a job or they're in school, they're going to struggle. You put them in school without healing them, they're going to struggle. Hell, these civilians know. I don't feel comfortable in this room. I always want to sit with my back to the wall. A lot of these sort of issues. So we have to do the whole thing. And the first one is engagement. These are my buddies. Now, I don't know if it's the same over here, but when they get out over there, plop. Underground. They want to get their bellies big. They want to get their beards even bigger. They want to go out drinking. They do not want to be told what to do. They don't often want to put their hands up and even say, I'm a veteran. They just want to be left the hell alone. Good for them. They've earned that right. The challenge we have, and one of the challenges I've recognized is you have, is that we have to find a way to engage them. And I was recently at an event, and it was called the PTS Resource Fair. And I told these lovely people, Howard and Jean, whose son killed himself in 2012, don't do it that way. Well, no, we've got to talk about it. Don't do it that way. 13 people turned up. There was 148 vendors there. 13 veterans turned up. You might as well have put an ad out that said, hey, if you're crazy and angry and you're an angry veteran, why don't you come down and chat with us? So, lesson learned. So, you have the same issues. We have a propensity to, I've heard 100 times here, research. We have 100 people who need some sort of PTS support. You have to put 95% of your effort into the 5% who haven't agreed that they need that support. And then the other way around. The 5% are the ones who are not putting their hands up, the ones who, turn up for work, spick and span, boots clean, not a problem. They go home, they get shit-faced, they argue with the wife. I had a veteran put his hand through the wall because his kid put ketchup on his macaroni cheese. We have to find a way to get them out of the ground. The best way to do that is talk to them, educate them, play with them. And the RSL, I think, would be great. What if the RSL showed MMA, had some video game competitions, things that are in their world. And I can tell you categorically that in the US, the VFW, our version of the RSL, the VFW, the American Legion, they are dying on the vine. They have not found a way to engage today's veterans because today's veterans don't want to go there because there's a bunch of old bastards just talking war stories, getting drunk every day. And if you guys, with the infrastructure you have with the RSL, can change that and be more welcoming to police and fire responders, families, and change that dynamic, I think the population base, will change, but you'll also get those little hooks into those guys, and then you go do your thing. And who better than, the RSL with the existing veterans to kind of help them. So once we get them out of the ground, this is our biggest challenge. They're in the military, they're inside that box. That box is pretty much a good descriptor. Do not argue, do not push back, do not advocate for yourself. Do what you're told, when you're told, how you're told. But Sarge, if I do that, get your butt back over there. Now they're in the civilian world. We have to educate them that now is the time to get outside the box, learn, think, advocate for yourself, argue, push back. So one of the workshops we do, which civilians, we find we take it for granted, I do four courses with young veterans, post 9/11 veterans. I do the first one is a career assessment tool. How many in here have done a career assessment? Not many, okay? Think if you're a young veteran and you come out, and who's done it? What do you want to do when you get out? I don't know. I'm an infantryman. I guess I'll just join the police. Or I want to get a degree. Well, what do you want to get a degree in? Well, I don't know, business administration. Okay, and then what kind of job are you going to get with that degree? Well, I don't know. How the hell can they know what they want to do if they haven't done some form of career assessment that says, hey, you're good at this, you're bad at this. You're likely to succeed in this job, and guess what? You're likely to really hate this job. And I did the same career assessment, which was pretty funny, which should be a career limiting move for me in my world. I had a lot of really green ones, but when it came down to the bottom, my two detractors were diplomacy and being too blunt, which does really well for the lads that I work with, but it doesn't do well for a lot of the others. So I surround myself with smart people who know when to shut the hell up. We also do resiliency training. This training is provided to special ops guys in the States, and we've kind of taken a bit of the aggressive side out of it. It's modular, it's e-learning. Likability and mindfulness, big thing now that we're doing, where we kind of say to these guys, you know what, when you go into that interview, smile for Christ's sake. Don't have to scare the interviewer, and let your hair grow a little bit longer. You don't have to make it so high and tight every time. So getting them into this, getting them to the point where they can smile, getting them to the point where they can interact with students in a classroom, know how to deal when that idiot asks, hey, did you kill anybody over there? Mindfulness. And then the one thing that I do not get, which it absolutely drives me crazy, we do fiscal responsibility. Hundreds of cool, I know you've got, I could go on Google now, I guarantee I could find a really cool fiscal educational course online. Have your veterans take that course. They don't know how to budget. They don't know how to lease an apartment. They don't know how to buy a car. And then the other thing we do, we teach them, we tell you, stay the hell away from these for-profit schools. Because at the end of the day, that bullshit degree that you get from any school that you can get a degree from, that you can sit at home and drink beer and eat pizza is probably not going to get you a great job. Because if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. So we get to engage them and we get to educate them on how to interact better with the civilian world. Love this one. I wouldn't hire that guy if he was the last person in the world. My last 500, please give me a job. I'd love to know if he got a job. That is a key problem on the employment side with our young veterans, is that they, without the career assessment, don't know what they want to do, so they take whatever's handed to them. I was a mechanic. I'm going to become a mechanic. I was an infantryman. I'm going to try to do security or be a police officer. And invariably, they end up getting in these roles where they take jobs because they're so despondent, and they end up changing them or losing them in 2-3 months or whatever, and now you're on that spiral again. So internships, I don't know what you have over here, but we have a lot of money over there for on-the-job training. Internships, community colleges. Why does a veteran have to go get a 2-year degree when he can go get a 3-month certificate that will get him to, you know, a good entry-level job? So employment is key. What doesn't work over there, which is categorically doesn't work, is all they get trained is how to write a resume. Well, if you're a fire team leader and you write a resume, and the next guy is a fire team leader and he writes a resume, it's the same friggin' resume. I don't care if you put it on velvet and you write it in gold ink. It still says you're a fire team leader. So we've got to differentiate them. They're taught how to interview. Hilarious. See some of these young guys, you know, they come from rural Kentucky and they've been infantrymen, you know, their whole lives, and they teach them how to interview. They tell them what tie to wear, dress for success. This shit doesn't work with them. We've got to take the education component and we've got to give them that one-to-one connection to the right employer for the right reasons as identified by their career assessments and what they want to do. Healing. One size clearly does not fit all. Okay? And I'm not sure, but they actually look like they might be Australians. But I put this in because I strongly believe that the smart people in this room, the clinicians, the psychiatrists, psychologists, absolutely have a place in this process. I don't think it's at the beginning. Okay? I had a young veteran that we busted his balls for a long time, go get help. Much to my distress, and this was when I first started and I needed to get my education. We got him to go, me and his former boss got him to go to the VA. He went, he was told 50 days for his first appointment. He met on that day for a 20-minute appointment with any number of, you know, somebody looks like any number of you lovely ladies. And he came out and he shot himself the next day. Because he felt that if that was the best he could get, it wasn't worth hanging around for. So when we talk about engaging these guys, the other gentleman talked about the trust. That is category one. And I find when I deal with this and I talk to other groups that we have a propensity to maybe map out a process that goes from 1 to 10. And smart people love to focus on 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And grunts like me, we want to focus on step 1, 2, 3. And if we're going to be successful, we've got to bring those two together. We've got to bring them together because if we don't build that trust at step 1, we don't find that young man who's 2 days away from killing himself at step 2, and we don't engage them to the point where you smart guys can really help them at step 6, 7, and 8, we're going to fail. And bless research. Love it. Do it all you want. But do your research on finding those 5 guys out of 100 who are about to kill themselves, or about to beat the wife, or about to drink themselves stupid. Because they're the ones who are going to need the long-term help. The brave guys, and I'm in the back of I got a Mini, and if anybody asks me how I fit in it, we're going to be going outside, okay? I got a Mini back in the US, and I got it in the back. Asking for strength is a sign of support, not an inability to cope. And if we keep drilling that into them with police and fire and victims of domestic violence, then you guys get to do what you do on the back end. The other thing as well, which I love the fact you guys do not mention medication very much. Bless you for that. I was called to the VA one day, and I got a call, and they said, hey, we got this guy, and can you come and get him? He's going to be homeless if you don't come and get him tonight. And I'm like, okay. So I go up there in my early days. This big, huge black Marine comes out, massive guy. And I try to talk to him. She chucks him in the car. She pats him on the back. She walks back inside the hospital. And I'm like, hey, how are you, man? I'm all right. you know, take him back to the house that I was paying for to, you know, to house some of these guys. All he had was a Ziploc bag, his ID, and 10 medical bags. Next day, they took him to get him a new phone about a mile from the house, and he lost his way, couldn't find his way back. Cops ended up coming getting him, so disorientated, they took him back to the VA and put him in the psych ward for 3 days. So then I drill down and do what I do as my board member says, an overly aggressive non-com. I got in there and I found out this individual was schizophrenic, also a combat veteran, and they're walking him out the door and giving him to me. And that was a hell of a lesson for me. And quite frankly, it freaked me out. So, you know, it changed the way I started to do a lot of things in general. So when I say one size doesn't fit all, please, please, clinicians, please, psychiatrists, listen to what they're telling you. I have a Green Beret who is a badass. And he is so proud of the fact that he listens to John Denver when he goes to bed. Now that would give me PTSD, okay? But that is his calming mechanism that enables him to get through the next day. I have a Navy SEAL who's done, I think, 4,800 jumps. When he gets tight and shit's bearing down on him, he will go jump out of an airplane. And he says he's tight all the way up, he's tight there, and he's tight there. And when his chute opens, he says, it just flows away. October the 10th, I'm taking 10 combat veterans to a wolf rescue. I'm terrified shitless. I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is good. But they've shown that these wolves have a very innate sense of bonding with troubled souls. And so we're going to go, and we're going to take some of my lads, and one of the stories they told was that one of these wolves was this big, massive wolf with yellow eyes, just paced, wouldn't talk to anybody. And everybody was terrified of it. And they had this young Marine go there who was not only a young combat Marine, but he was also dealing with transgender issues and alcohol and substance abuse. Boom. And everybody there like, holy crap, well, what the hell? You know, I've taken them to bonsai trees. We sat around a bunch of combat veterans from Fallujah and we trimmed bonsai trees. Have you ever seen a combat veteran with a look on his face, terrified that he's going to cut the wrong leaf off? It's therapeutic. But I guarantee it's not in your book. And he didn't take medication. Now, I won't bullshit you. Pretty much every bonsai tree died within like 3 weeks after getting back. But when I saw him working on it, it was like, oh, this is good. So, you know, I just really want you to kind of think outside the box. Think, and I'll just share with you because I got 5 months. I'm keeping actually good. I'm actually keeping good time. Normally I'll go on for like hours and I'll look around and everybody's already left. We've got 2 big initiatives that we're doing. And I had the pleasure to talk to Tony, you know, like my Australian brother from another mother, because like, we really are peas in a pod. And one that I'm doing, which I see it being really transferable to come over here, but I'd love to see you do your versions, okay? It's called Breaking Silence. And an old marketing guru friend of mine said, if you can describe your mission in 1 word or less, him being a funny marketing guy, you're doing good. So my 2 words was breaking silence, because they prompt you to ask a couple of questions. Well, what are you breaking? Well, I'm breaking the gap between the silence. Well, silence of what? The silence of struggling with PTSD. Because that's why they're killing themselves. Because there is no easy way for them to say, I need a bit of help. I've had people say, well, why don't they call Marines for life? Yeah, you know nothing about Marines. Marines struggling with drinking and anxiety and PTSD, they're not calling other Marines. Because that's not what happened when they were in the service. They sure as hell not going to do it now. So we're doing a series around show that John Favreau did, which basically was a bunch of celebrities. They go to a restaurant, they get shit-faced, smoke cigars, and shoot the top, just shoot the breeze. We're not going quite that far. We don't have the budget, and we're not celebrities. But I took 4 Marines and Navy corpsmen up to LA. We filmed for 3 hours and 10 minutes, 1-to-1 for 10 minutes for everyone, and then we just had a couch session, and we just shot the shit. They were amazing. They came across as ethical, strong, reliable, loyal, had a good grip on their PTS. 4 of the 5 had been wounded in combat. 3 of the 5 had master's degrees. All were married. And guess what? They weren't crazy. So we're going to put that show together, and we're going to get it edited. And out of the 12 shows that we have planned, only 2 are going to be veterans. The next show we're doing is victims of domestic violence. And there'll be a female, me up there, obviously a lot better looking, who's going to manage a group of ladies in the same format to talk about how PTS has impacted them. And we've got police, we've got fire, we've got victims of domestic violence, we've got kids who've lost parents, parents who've lost kids, children who've lost, amputees. We've actually got paperwork in at San Quentin Prison to go there to interview incarcerated veterans who are there as a direct result of their post-traumatic stress, where they've screwed up and the system has not given them the care or the break or the understanding that the reason why they did that is directly involved in their combat trauma. You could do that here. That doesn't take a lot of money. And you get that out on the airwaves and you